there's no risk, it's probably not funny because it's got to be some tension for it to be funny. There has to be something that the humor ball is bouncing off of, and that is inherently tension, and the tension is inherently risk, and so you can't, and you can feel
Man has studied the formula of comedy. I love it.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
We are here today with John Cook and Kenan Thompson. Welcome to the Variety Studio.
Thank you.
How are y'all doing today?
Excellent.
We're good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Well, first off, I'd love to hear about what brought you both to Cannes Lions this year and how you've been working together.
Yeah, well, I think we're doing a lot together. I think we're both here to celebrate all the creativity. I don't know. I mean, I think just so much creativity in Cannes. Mm-hmm. But one thing we specifically did together yesterday, which was really awesome, was just talking about the return of humor to advertising. Mm-hmm. Not that it ever went away. It's always been there, but it's getting more and more celebrated. And so we did a big piece about how important humor is, how brave it is, and it was fun to talk about.
Yeah, it was a big panel. It was a nice turnout. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. As you mentioned, your talk yesterday focused on the power of comedy to connect to audiences and consumers. Kenan, how have you seen your own comedy evolve over your 20 years at SNL, and how has your approach changed, if at all?
I mean, I just matured, I guess. I used to talk about a lot of bathroom humor and stuff like that when I started out, and now, it's like I read the newspaper, as an adult kind of thing. But it's also just the maturation of the show itself, like a lot of diversity has come in there since I've been there kind of thing. And it's just progressing the show forward in a really positive way, I think. It just allows for a lot more voices to be heard and, more talents to be displayed, across a bunch of different cultures, which is, even better for the tent that, SNL is. It's just getting bigger. So that's been really cool to watch.
Can you still do bathroom humor if you need to?
Oh, absolutely. You're better at the approach because
it's more mature approach.
Exactly. It's a little more subtle.
Yeah.
But then when you nail it, you nail it.
Absolutely. And John, how are you looking at injecting comedy into those brand campaigns?
Yeah, we try to all the time. I mean, comedy, it takes lots of different forms, but if you think back about the stuff that you remember from any brand and the brands you love, there's usually humor involved. It's all different types. So we're it's not setting out to say we're going to do humor with a brand. If it has to be right for that brand, it's always about who the audience is and what you're trying to connect and what the product is. But I don't know. A lot of times out of 10, humor is the best way to do it and to be memorable.
Do you find that there's risk with, adding humor into an ad campaign?
I think it's good risk. Yeah, it's not. It's if there's no risk, it's probably not funny because it's got to be some tension for it to be funny. There has to be something that the humor ball is bouncing off of, and that is inherently tension, and the tension is inherently risk, and so you can't, and you can feel
Man has studied the formula of comedy. I love it.
I don't know. It just feels like, but yeah, no, I think maybe when you're a little bit nervous, that's probably going to be the funniest stuff. But yeah, there's some risk, and you have to work through a lot of people because there's a lot of people involved in a brand. There's the brand manager and the brands can be very protective and risk adverse sometimes. So really try to push that and say, hey, you're going to get your biggest wins by taking your biggest risk.
Absolutely. And how does that resonate with you, Kenan, when it comes to campaigns that you've been a part of?
I mean, I love it. Like, there's nothing better than to just sit around and laugh all day. I mean, it's, a little bit like tiresome, like trying to come up with concepts and ideas all the time that are really funny and are going to resonate with people. But once you land on something and you work with good people, it's just a better environment. When everybody's happy, everybody's laughing or trying to hold in laughter behind the scenes, makes the day go by a lot faster. And then, yeah, like John was saying, I think it resonates with people, like when you really hit a funny bone, it's like, I think it sinks in a little harder than just your average, splash of information.
Absolutely. And obviously humor is subjective. What's funny to you might not be funny to me. Mm-hmm. How are you working to kind of get that broad humor that can really connect to a wide swath of consumers?
Yeah, man, like I said, like diversity is a really, key aspect to it, and, just allowing for new voices to enter the room, like there's nothing wrong with status quos and things like that, but you need someone who knows what the youth is talking about. Like, even my ears are getting old, and I'm like, Benson Boone who, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like now, if you like stay around the young folks, and you have a night like last night, and now I'm a big Benson Boone fan. There you have it.
How about you, John? Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, when we talk about breadth of comedy and you're talking about working with brands, yeah, I think like Kenan said, you have to be as inclusive as you can, bring in more people. But I think you still have to understand who the target audience is. You know, that's I would guess just like when you're a comedian and Saturday Night Live, there's a certain audience for it. And you may be different if you're a different platform. But I think for brands, yeah, understanding who that audience is, because anything we're gonna do, create advertising wise, it still comes back to what we learned in college about there's an audience and we're trying to persuade them to take an action with a brand. And if humor can be the way to do that, and if we can be as broad as possible to hit as many people as we can, that's perfect.
For sure. Are there any specific examples of recent campaigns where it just worked really well? Can you talk a bit about that?
Ooh, yeah, you're putting me on the spot. Yeah, well, we talked about Wendy's a little bit yesterday. Wendy's is we work with Wendy's in the U.S. and you know, best hamburgers in the world. But I love Wendy's because they don't take themselves too seriously. Kenan brought it up yesterday as well. We're using real kind of these cast members in the stuff, and just having them react to things in the restaurant, just everyday things like everyday customers, everyday actions that happen. You know, there's so much humor just there in the restaurant. But it takes a little bit of bravery because Wendy's has to be not afraid to show in the restaurant, to show funny things happening. You know, a lot of brands want it to be totally perfect. This is our restaurant. Nothing weird ever happens in here. It's not the way in real life. And so I think Wendy's a good example is like, let's be real, let's be raw. And that's where the biggest kind of laughs come from. And we'll sell a few hamburgers along the way too.
Yeah, I love it because it humanizes the employees. It's like from the employee's perspective, and then their testimonials kind of like what they're going through, but it's, you know, the satire version of it, but it still like feels very real and it's funny. So it's like a really good blend of the two. And it's highly effective because they've had like 7 or 8 different versions of it. And that's when you know you've landed on something that's really strong, like a progressive flow or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a flow from progressive, not just a progressive. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I think when you like those cats, you reminded me of this, which is when you see it through the employee's eyes, and then you're just a consumer at a Wendy's, you're like, oh, this is what they're seeing. There's a lot of humor there. There's a lot of territory. So yeah.
And I think there's a lot of like identifying tissues. Like, yeah, I think the same thing too. You know what I mean? And they're calling it out kind of thing. So yeah, it's just a good synergy between like customer and business, basically. That is just like blends like the curtain. You know what I mean? Like you just feel like Wendy's is just like part of your family at that point. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, my nephew works at Wendy's, and he says the same thing or whatever. Yeah.
I think I grew up with Wendy. She was just the logo, you know, and she was just on the cup and on the French fries. And in the last 10 years, I think what Wendy's had done working with them is like giving her personality, giving everything, all that swagger you're talking about. She'll snap back at you, you know, in whatever form she is, whether it's those employees in the spots or on social media. You know, she's talked about taking risks. She'll take a risk. You know,
I grew up in the Dave era when Dave was just like, I'll do all the commercials.
Exactly. Yeah, he's flipping the square.
Just telling us the story, and even that kind of like behind the scenes of who's running this kind of thing felt very inviting. You know what I mean? It felt like more like warm. Like we don't know who Ronald McDonald is.
We don't even acknowledge the clown. The square hamburgers because they don't cut corners. By the way,
his name is Ronald Williams. Actually, people don't know this.
A little known fact.
Oh yeah, growing up in Ohio, Wendy's is an Ohio business. So I love Wendy's. Yeah. So, you know, obviously today our society is quite polarized. Do you think that comedy, specifically comedy and advertising, can be a tool to sort of for unification?
Most definitely. I mean, we have to try some kind of, you know what I mean? We might as well try as many kind of ways as we can to try to like, you know, reach across the aisles and stuff like that. But comedy is definitely a unifier. You know, we talk about that a lot. It's you know, one of the bigger unifiers that entertainment has, you know, on the TV and film side that music just has naturally. Like music just, you know, you can just splash the globe with music and everybody's on the same page. When it's language, you know what I mean? It's a little bit like different, or there's different like, I don't know, like there's just like different meanings in different cultures or whatever kind of things, like different interpretations or whatever. So it's hard to like actually get it right. But comedy is so specific that I think it like makes it a lot easier to like just bring a lot of different people onto the same kind of page. Like especially in America, like you tell a good joke, like everybody's laughing. It doesn't matter, you know, who they're voting for in the future kind of thing. It's just like, we're aware of this situation and how it was presented to us just all made us laugh. And that's kind of the only target that you need, basically.
I do like Saturday Night Live for that, for a lot of reasons, but that you can kind of like, you can count on something at the end of the week. It's all this heavy stuff that happens politically and all this polarization you're talking about, but on Saturday night at 11:30 Eastern or whatever time, that you're going to get both sides of it. You're going to get some humor about it, no matter how rough that week was politically or polarizing. You got a little treat waiting for you that kind of just takes attention out a little bit. It's a nice thing to be waiting for.
Nice little treat.
Little treat.
Something to look forward to for sure. Kenan, I'd love to ask you as well, which sketches from the recent SNL season sort of stood out to you, and did you know that they were going to be funny, or was it more of, waiting and seeing? I know Beavis and Butthead comes to mind.
I was just about to say the Beavis and Butthead was like the most explosive thing ever. And like, this was like a year where we were, doing stuff with Taylor Swift. And like, this is like a big year, of sketches. And then, Beavis and Butthead just came out of nowhere, like late in the season. And it was just so dynamic. And yeah, I knew it was going to be funny because it was funny to us the whole time. Like, we've done it before, like a few years ago, and like, it was still funny then, but things work out, however they work out up there. There's not a lot of logic to it. But I didn't know it was gonna be like, meltdown face funny, like once we got to the live work, because we usually have gotten all our giggles out by that point. Like, I laughed so hard at dress rehearsal, like I scared myself kind of straight. So, to see Heidi like go back down the waterfall was just fun. It was amazing. You know what I mean?
Reaction was amazing.
It was unbelievable, because like, we try to be professional, but like, we're still human and we're all like very close. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the kind of trenches together or whatever for a long time throughout the year and stuff. So, we spend a lot of time together, and we, go through a lot of emotional ups and downs on the show when things, you try to present something that is funny to you, but it's not funny to other people. Like, that can hurt a little bit. So yeah, we're all very like close in the journey, and to like have something be so beloved by someone that you have such affinities for, kind of thing, it just allows for a moment like that. And I think that is like really contagious to like watch. Like, you feel like you're there as well. You know what I mean? Like, you're witnessing something very, very silly and funny. And it started before that. Like, Ryan, like Gosling was laughing, from as soon as he sat down. But he played it real enough in the beginning to set it up, and that's all it took, basically. So, yeah, shout out to Mikey Day for writing that one, and Streeter. It's one of their like white whales that had, gotten away from them in the past, and they came to the table and blew up. You know what I mean? It was amazing. It's nice to witness that.
For sure. I want to see the feature-length version of that sketch.
Yeah, for sure.
Just watching when you can see him in the background and when she hasn't turned around yet of the audience, you're just waiting for her. You know that something's going to happen when she turns around. And
they're both so audience. Good at being like, who, me? Am I the one?
Amazing. And one last question for Jon. How would you like to continue, guiding these brands throughout the next year? And how are you hoping to sort of continue to redesign this comedy space within advertising?
Yeah, I think that's why this week is good here at Cannes, because all the brands are seeing the power of humor. Humor's winning. Humor's not just winning awards. It's winning awards, but humor's effective. And we got to keep that momentum going. And working with people like Kenan just to keep the momentum going of humor working again. I think there has been a period of time where, with the pandemic, and maybe for some right reasons and politically, that maybe some of the stuff slowed down in terms of brands' ability to use humor or desire to use humor, but it's back on, and it's back on strong. And it's like, so let's, we got to let that momentum happen, and hopefully we learned some lessons during the pandemic and things that laughter can kind of bring you through it. And so that's what we're going to keep doing this next year.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you
for coming by.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
All right.
Humor is the way, folks.